Because I was not an economist, because I hadn't had the opportunity of working in any of the Brentwood institutions, the then Minister for Finance said, no, that we are going to spend our way out of recession. Today, all the economists at the Brentwood institutions has complained about our debt. We are now almost at 28 trillion, $90 billion with little or nothing to show for it. What is even worse, the debt is growing daily, and consequently, the service, what we require to service it, is worsening. And I'll give you an example. In 2017, we spent $1,630 billion naira to service our debts. In 2018, we spent $2,090 billion naira. Within 1 year, it was 460 billion naira. 460 billion naira in 2018 was 90.3% our budget for education. And the same amount was 125.6% our budget for health, just to service debt. And we are still piling up more debts. It's still growing. There are some economists and some Nigerians or some people who say, oh, our debt is not our problem. Our debt to GDP is low. Our debt to this is low. I don't disagree entirely with them. Our debt to GDP is about 25%. It's low when you compare it to other developing nations whose GDP is actually in the region of 40-50. But it's not about debt. It's what you use the money to do that is the crisis. Yes, you can say our debt is low, but when you have little or nothing to show for it, then you have a problem because you're borrowing for consumption. We have countries, when we said about countries that are wonderful today and good today, one of them everybody cites is Singapore. Singapore debt to GDP is over 100%. Over 100%, that's 115% of their GDP is their debt. But what is the difference? If you go and see Singapore, in Constitution of Singapore, it says you can only borrow debt for capital project that will pay itself back. So all the debts they've borrowed over the years were invested. They are proper. They know where it is. Singapore today is building the biggest port under the sea that they will launch in 2050. That's where Soludo is saying we should go. So if they borrow money to do that, you go and borrow money for shaku shaku dance. You're finished.